I am not a financial advisor, and I never give financial advice on this channel. 100% of this content is for entertainment purposes only. Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. It's Lane here with MetaShackle, and it sure was an eventful day today, wasn't it? Watching the crypto markets just completely decimated. The liquidations were just off the charts. I feel so bad for all of the leverage traders that just completely got wiped out today, which is not uncommon when you're trading leverage, especially for long-term positions. But the vast majority of my Patreon members in the master tier, we've been talking about this for weeks, and many of us have had low limit buy orders in place for quite some time now, preparing for this very moment, just in case it occurred. Now, there is one thing that I need to make clear. As I was reading a comment today in the comment section, a viewer put a comment in there saying something about me sweeping things under the rug as far as some of the stuff that I go over in my videos. So I need to clarify this. You need to understand that the charts that I'm going over are the 4-hour and the daily charts. These charts take time to come to fruition, often weeks, perhaps even months at times. So a lot of times when I put a video up of something that I'm seeing in the charts or the potential of something that could happen in the charts, it's not going to happen in 15 minutes. It's most likely not even going to happen in that day unless I specifically specify such. But I will point these things out in videos and then just continue to move on with what I'm doing. That way I'm bringing these things to your attention. For example, a few weeks ago when I talked about the potential for price to move down into the liquidation zone on my charts, as well as a worst case scenario that could potentially move down to the bullish order block that's centered at about $1.47.5. Well, as you know, recently, I was leaning towards the bullish side these last few days because that's what the charts were indicating. So there was no reason to go over these lower liquidation ranges or the worst case scenario because that card wasn't quite in play yet. So I was leaning bullish until the charts took out those lower support levels, which have now been taken out, which gave me what I needed to see that the charts were in fact moving to the bearish side. Now that the sentiment is not moving towards the bullish side, has taken those support levels out, and is now moving to the bearish side of things, you're not only aware of what could happen to the upside if we did break bullish, but you've also been aware of for quite some time of the potential of what could occur if we went bearish, which we are now hanging out on the bearish end of the scale. So now that that potential is coming back into play, we need to be mindful of that liquidation zone as well as the worst case scenario once again. But much like a basketball team, the coach doesn't pull the team over and then go over every single play in the roster when there's only 10 seconds left on the clock. He goes over the play that's most pertinent at that moment. And if they need to change the play down the road because they've got more time, then they will go back on additional plays. So that's why I'm always trying to bring it to your attention what the bullish potential is as well as the bearish potential. Then I follow the price action and we just see how things are going. And depending on which direction we go, that's going to determine what we're focused on and what we're keeping an eye on either side of the coin, whether bearish or bullish. But right now, since we have moved to the bearish side, we need to be aware of these things. And I would highly suggest to each and every single one of you to consider joining my Patreon, because we have been talking about this in the private master tier chat for many weeks, and there's not one single person in the master tier chat that has been caught off guard. And regardless of what people in the YouTube community might think, we have been weeks and weeks ahead of everybody else on YouTube in regards to this particular matter. Even though in the last couple days, you've been seeing a lot of YouTube analysts, especially in the XRP community, finally start to bring these things to your attention. But being a part of the master tier on our Patreon will keep you light years ahead of them. And if anyone in the master tier can confirm what I'm saying here, please do put something in the comments and confirm that what I'm saying is absolutely true. We have been light years ahead of everybody. Even though we may not know which direction the market's going to move, we're prepared for either eventuality. Much like when you take a drive somewhere in your automobile. You don't leave the house planning to get into a wreck, otherwise you just wouldn't have left the house. But you wear your seatbelt just in case you do get into a wreck. So you are preparing for that eventuality. And that is exactly what we do in the master tier on the Patreon. And if you'd like to be light years ahead with everybody else that's in there, where we share ideas, learn from each other, and have built an incredible community, come on over and check it out. I would highly recommend it. So having said that, let's get into these charts. First off, taking a look at the Bitcoin chart. If you remember the last video I did, we had quite a few fair value gaps up in this area, all of which have been broken and failed. So I've removed those from the chart just so that it's not cluttered, because as you know, I have a tendency to have very cluttery charts, and that's a bad habit that I'm trying to break. But earlier today, when we formed this candle right here, which I mentioned on my posts in Patreon, that this candle was likely about to make a decision on which way the market was going to move, as many people on my Patreon know. And that is exactly what occurred. As we formed this small, although bearish order block right here, price utterly collapsed at that point. Since then, we have formed a bearish SIBI on the 4-hour, which is rather large, and price came down here, taking out all of those levels, and price bounced right down here perfectly within the expected level of my fib levels, wicking in to this bullish fair value gap right here, known as a BISI, and has popped back up and is now trading between this bullish fair value gap and this bearish fair value gap. And just in case you don't know, right here when I mark these, it tells you what it is. For example, here this is a SIBI, and now this mark right here tells you on which time frame of the chart it's applicable. So in this case, this SIBI is marked here on the 4-hour chart, as you can see right here. Now this bearish order block is also on the 4-hour chart, I just haven't marked it yet. Just like that. So if you're ever looking at my charts, this right here will tell you exactly which time frame to look on if you would like to replicate these on your charts. And generally, since I go over the 4-hour and the daily, it'll either say 4-hour, 1 hour, or a D for daily, a W for weekly, an M for monthly, etc. So on the 4-hour chart, Bitcoin is now trading below the 200-day moving average, which is very bearish and was not the case this morning. So at this point, there's a very good chance that we could, in fact, visit much lower levels, drawing upon sell-side liquidity, as I've been talking about for quite some time, was very possible previous to moving upward, as all of the coins that are acquired by the market makers during these down moves will be used later for distribution as we move up. So now taking a look at the XRP charts, you can see the same thing. All of the support levels, all of the bullish support levels that were listed through this area, I've removed them to unclutter my chart. XRP also formed a bearish order block on the 4-hour right here, which was the key indicator on that candle when I sent that post out to my Patreon members, as I spotted the potential for a major decision coming just hours before it actually occurred. I wasn't exactly sure which direction it was going to go until this bearish order block formed. Once price pulled below this, I knew that it was very likely that it was going to be much lower, subsequently knocking out all of the bullish support levels, coming all the way down here and tapping into this bullish order block that is centered at right about that $2.88 level. Price also punched through this lower trend line that I mentioned in my last video right here, which supported price these two previous times, as well as right here. Now, even though price is trading up above it, it still punched right through it. But this bullish order block right here is still intact, as you can wick through these and they still remain valid. It's the candle body closing through them that caused the damage. So this order block is still holding. And if you look at the charts, current price is trading at about 3%, right around that 3% range above the beginning of the liquidity zone that I've been talking about for well over a month now. We have a weak doji reverse waterfall right here on the 4-hour at $2.02. And we also have this one down here at $1.92, which is where I have 25% of my available funds for buying additional XRP. My limit buy order is resting right at this weak doji reverse waterfall. The other 50% I have down here resting at this weak doji reverse waterfall, which is much less likely to hit, but this order is double what the previous order is, and then I'm holding 25% in dry powder just in case. Now, even though it's unlikely that we would come down to this point, much like driving, you wear a seatbelt just in case. So that's the reason why me and many of my Patreon members have low limit buy orders resting down in this area, all of us having different ideas and different investment goals. Those levels vary depending on the individual themselves, which is exactly what it should be. And since my XRP bags have been loaded to the hilt, I really don't need any additional XRP. But If price is willing to come down to me, I'll add some more to the stack, but I'm certainly not going to chase it. And I'm not making financial advice. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. So this will be very interesting to watch because we just keep stacking barriers. Barrier after barrier after barrier after barrier after barrier after barrier after barrier above current price on the XRP charts, which is just going to make it much more challenging to get through in order to get up above this upper trend line so that we can eventually move into price discovery, which I think is coming sooner than you think. But the other good thing is this trend line is moving down with price. So eventually, at some point, when price and this upper trend line do meet again, price won't have to travel as high up to get across it. That potentially could make it a little bit easier, especially on the retest, to get through this area right here, which is going to be our biggest challenge, getting through the equilibrium zone, breaking this massive bearish order block on the daily, as well as this incredibly huge bearish SIBI on the daily. That is quite a barrier, but we will eventually get through it, in my opinion. So many of the trend lines have been removed. I'm holding this one just to mark this area, so if we do move upwards, I will be watching this lower trend line as well as this one just to see how they react. But overall, as you obviously know at this moment, the sentiment on XRP is not only edging bearish, but it's looking like it's moderately bearish. And if we can't get up through this SIBI here and up through this bearish order block, it's likely that we're going to continue to crack on this bullish order block just below current price. And if this breaks, I have no doubt that we're going down to this liquidity zone here. And there's really not a lot to hold us up if we do get to that area, with the exception of this bullish order block here, which would be extremely powerful as it's on the daily. And we're currently on the 4-hour chart. And it's just below where my low limit buy orders are set at this weak doji, and it's basically right there at about that $1.89.8 area. So if we do come down to these levels, taking out this weak doji and this weak doji, this is going to be the area to watch for support. And if this puppy doesn't hold, and we break through this lower trend line, best bet your bottom dollar that this is going to be our next target right here. Centered it right around that $1.45 range, right in there. So that'd just be something to think about. I'm not saying that's going to happen. We're going to have to watch this play by play, just as I had been watching the bullish momentum over the last couple days and did not switch to the bearish side until I seen all of those bullish support zones taken out. Now that that has occurred, we've taken out this previous low here, my sentiment has shifted to the bearish side. That doesn't mean that we'll continue to go down, but I'm watching for the signs of anything that could change my mind, and as you know, I will certainly let you know where I'm at in that regard. And we've also had a break of structure right here off of this lower point, so now we just have to watch and see if there's a change in price delivery, and that will take time to do as we're on the 4-hour chart right now, which means that it would likely take a few days to gather more information in order to determine which direction we could move from this point. But as it sits right now, sentiment is bearish. We're trading below that break of structure, and we're likely to form another bearish fair value gap right here when this candle closes in about the next 2.5 hours. For additional information and exclusive perks, do consider joining me on Patreon. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Please do me a favor and hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything, and it absolutely helps the channel break through the algorithm, and I would really appreciate it. And I hope I've been able to clarify a few things on why I do what I do to make it easier for you to understand how it is that I run this ship. And you will never see a time that I'll sweep anything under the rug. I got no problem admitting to it. But at the same time, I was kind of a jerk to the Moon Boys over the last couple weeks, which I really shouldn't have been, and I do appreciate the brother that was in the comment section who mentioned that, because I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen again. I will be sharing memes, just because I have a horrible sense of humor, and I think they're hilarious, but I definitely need to carry myself with more humility, regardless of what happens, and I do appreciate that. Thank you. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.
I'm gonna live the life I dream, no matter what you think, no matter what you see, no matter how it seems. Feast your eyes on my angel wings. I gotta be me, see.